Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Let's talk about 100% and what you can do in 2024 to get over the hump and into the arena of 100%. Now, obviously, there's more than one 100%. You have the regular scheduler 100%, you have temporary 100%, you have permanent and total, and then you have TDIU that pays you out at 100%. So I wanted to talk primarily about just hitting 100% on the scheduler rating. Now, you can leverage that and move to permanent and total. In fact, oftentimes people hit the regular 100%, not permanent and total, before they transition over to permanent and total. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. The asks are really, look, hit the thumbs up, let the video run, helps to put this into the hands of those that need it. Remember, there's about 18 million veterans out there, of which less than 30% are actually utilizing VA compensation. So there's definitely a need for this information to get out there. Now, this is really targeted, right, to you, the veteran who already has a percentage in place, and you're just kind of kicking around the idea of maybe looking for other ways to increase your rating. I will say that for some people, and I know people like this, they're like, you know, I have my 30% or whatever it is, I'm fine, I don't, it's okay, save it for somebody else, save it for somebody who needs it. And this type of mindset, although it's refreshing, right? But you don't want to leave money on the table from your benefits. If you were in any other industry in the world, say you're working for a startup company that said, hey, you know, if you stick with us for 5 years, you'll be fully vested in this stock that today is worth nothing. But if we come public, you're going to be worth a lot of money. And you go, great, I'll come on board. I get all these kind of basically stocks that aren't really worth anything unless the company goes public. And you stick it out for 5 years, and then you go, I'm good. You know, I got another job offer. I'm going to take off. Well, hey, don't forget your stock. You know, we're public now. It's worth $2 million or whatever it is. You're not going to say, never mind, I don't need it, save it for somebody else. You're going to say, oh yes, send that over here. Right? This is the equivalent. VA benefits, especially in these upper echelons for percentage, are worth millions of dollars over a lifetime. You couple that with your health care and all those other things, these are huge benefits that sadly many of us walk away. So I spent a little time on that because we have to have the right mindset. First of all, right? Otherwise, you're never going to get what is due to you. If you think, save it for somebody else, I don't need it, 100% is not for me, I can still walk, there's plenty of people that need to get that are in way worse conditions than me. And I'll say that is a misperception about the 100%. Sadly, the way that the VA talks about things and has things labeled makes us come up with the wrong conclusion. So 100% is not the maximum, although it sounds like it because it's 100%. It is not the maximum. There's a whole other rating schedule, in fact, called Special Monthly Compensation that has much higher monthly payments than the regular 0 to 100%. I like to think of it that pretty much everybody can qualify for something on the 0 through 100% rating schedule. Not everybody's going to qualify for SMC, Special Monthly Compensations, reserved for the more severe situations. So with that being said, what you really need to do is, one, have the right mindset. Two, if you have any ratings today, or even if you don't, my first suggestion is always, number one, file an intent to file. This preserves your effective date. You file that today, whatever, right? We'll say March 1. March 1, that got filed. Now you're good for a year. So you have until the end of February to file your claim of the following year. So that takes the pressure off, because now as long as you file your claim within that time frame, you're preserving that effective date. Now, the second thing is, if you do not have, and really even if you do, look, order your service treatment records. You never know what you might find in there. You could be missing something or what have you. So if you've recently ordered them and you have them, great. Well, then flip through them, right? So you want to go through all of your service treatment records and look for any indications of mentions of anything that could tie a current condition back to your time in service. A great example would be maybe you never got diagnosed for GERD while you were in service. GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, bad heartburn, right? So you never got diagnosed while you were in. 5 years later, after you got out, you got diagnosed for GERD and you got prescribed Prilosec. Okay, you're moving on in life and you're doing your thing, and you never really think about the fact that that could be service connected. You ordered your service treatment records and you went through them, and guess what you found? You found on a self-attesting form that was signed by a physician's assistant, and so it's a medical form and signed and it's legit and it's during your time in service, that on that physical health assessment where you self-attested to have you now or have you ever experienced any of these conditions, you checked heartburn. Now, heartburn is not GERD. However, heartburn is a symptom of GERD. So again, you weren't diagnosed, you don't have any of that, but you did complain about a symptom of GERD. This is going to help you establish the nexus. There's a lot of talk about nexus in this world. Connecting your diagnosed condition to your time in service. So now you have that to leverage. That is a piece of evidence. And you could utilize that evidence to then take it to your doctor and have them reference it and write a Nexus letter for you stating that it is more than likely that your GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, manifested during service and therefore should be service connected, right? So they'll write this Nexus letter for you with whatever rationale. You'd provide that physical health assessment as well for your evidence. You could work on manufacturing additional evidence, a letter from yourself, a letter from people that you know, buddy statements, people that you served with, family members, relatives, that type of stuff that can attest to knowing that you suffered from bad heartburn, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, during your time in service, right? And that they never knew you to have this issue prior to your time in service. So you'd want to go through all of your service treatment records, look for, again, anything that could be a symptom of a current condition, any mention of a current condition, any activities that could have led to injuries that you would have just sucked up, right? So often, my ankle was about this big, black and blue stripes all over it, right? And what I do? I pushed through. I hobbled for a little bit with my pack, right? And kind of caught up with everybody else because, I didn't want to fall out. So keep going, right? And for whatever, maybe it's because I was young, right? So for whatever reason, it really just sucked at the beginning. And then after I pushed through for a little while, it kind of alleviated a little bit. But it looked horrible, right? We just pushed through. I'm sure there's issues with my ankle, back issues, that type of stuff. It's just pop Motrin, move on, right? Drink water, change your socks. So all that to say is look for any activities that may have been discussed. Look through your old awards if you received any sort of medals for anything or ribbons for certain accomplishments that would have required some sort of physical aspect that you could have injured yourself. Your MOS itself can be a way in. Anything that you can use to kind of paint the picture of how an injury in this case would have happened, and then you'd be able to have that same conversation with your doctor and have them be able to put it into a Nexus letter as well. And again, back to the buddy statements and all that stuff. So I would comb through all of my military history on the medical side and just events side, whether again awards, MOS, certain activities you did. Even through schools, and the schools are notorious for pushing through, right? Because nobody wants to get held up in a school or anything like that. So like for me, I went through School of Infantry in the Marine Corps, and I am not going to say I hurt anywhere, ever. I'm just going to make it through it because it is basically extended boot camp. So I'm not going to get stuck there. So I'm going to push through. I mean, I'd have to really like break my leg or something in order to not push through. So anyway, it's easier when you're younger, but things catch up as we're finding out, right? Things catch up with us. And so look for those events that you can use. Next, I would go through all of my current conditions that I'm service connected for, if I have any, and I would compare and contrast them with the schedule of ratings from the VA. Now, there's two ways you could really do it. You can go to the VA's website, schedule of ratings, go through it, find your condition in the right book, all that stuff. It's a bit cumbersome, I get it. Or you can type in your condition, whatever. We'll just say GERD. GERD, let's say you're rated for GERD currently. So GERD VA rating schedule. Most likely what will pop up is 5 attorneys, right, with that information put on their website for you to look at. It's probably good. So go ahead and read that. I'm a fan of getting it straight from the horse's mouth because that's going to be the most up to date. But the attorney's website should be good too. Go in there and read what the criteria is for each percentage. If you're rated 10%, for example, for GERD, but then you read the requirements for the 30% and you tell yourself, well, wait a minute, I qualify for 30. Then what happened was you probably didn't articulate it correctly when you were at your CNP exam. So you're going to want to check mark this and go, okay, I'm going to need to file for an increase. Do that for every one of your conditions. Find the condition in the schedule of ratings, read through it, make sure that you are at the correct rating today. If you're not at the correct rating today, then you need to make a side note and go, okay, look, I need to ask for an increase on this specific condition. You're moving all these conditions over that you're going to have asking for increases. And there might not be any, but maybe there is, right? So the VA doesn't always get it right. So let's say you have 2 conditions that you're going to be asking for increases on. Then the next thing you're going to do is go through all of your conditions. And what I would do is type in secondary conditions to X, right? Secondary conditions to tinnitus, secondary conditions to whatever, and see what pops up. Some of this stuff will be on lawyer sites. Some of this stuff will be on medical sites. It's fine. What's going to happen here is it's going to open up your eyes a little bit and go, oh, I never realized that this condition was potentially connected to that condition that's service connected. And I have both. So, maybe I should file for a secondary condition for this connected to that, if that makes sense. So you're going to do that with all your conditions as well. And you're going to annotate which ones you need to do secondary conditions for and for what condition. Next, you're going to have to now go, okay, all of my brand new conditions that I was able to find that I've never filed for, right? It's combing through everything. I have this condition, I never filed for it. You need to make sure you have your diagnosis. You need to make sure that you have everything tied in for your service connection, your Nexus Letter, all that stuff, right? It's good to go so you can file for those. You're going to look at all of your increases. You don't need a Nexus because the VA has already service connected you, but you need to show that the condition got worse, specifically in line with the schedule of ratings for the percentage that you actually rate. So you want to make sure you take that same information from the schedule of ratings, go to your doctor. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can make sure that you get your doctor to put all of that verbiage in your medical records as symptoms that you experience, so you can utilize that as evidence. You can also have your doctor complete a DBQ for your condition and have them embed that same information from the schedule of ratings into the DBQ. And then either way, all of that information is now going to be pulled back from your doctor, your treatment records with all of that verbiage in there, the criteria for the rating, and or the DBQ that has all that information. And that is now going to be evidence for the increase. You need to show that your signs and symptoms have worsened compared to where they have you, and show that you make all of those criteria make sure that you make all of those criteria for the specific rating that you're going to. Make sure that that's clear in there. So now you got your secondaries. Secondaries are a little bit different. So you need to still have your diagnosis, and you need to have a a link, a nexus to a service-connected condition. So I'm diagnosed for my secondary condition. I read somewhere that this condition can cause this condition. I'm service-connected for this condition. So now I need to tie these two together, right? So you could tell your doctor, hey doc, who diagnosed me for this, can you write me a letter stating that this caused this, right? That it is a secondary condition to this condition for me. And they'll write you essentially a secondary Nexus letter. So that way you can make sure you tie that together. In addition, you'd want to get it right the first time and make sure that your secondary condition is going to be rated appropriately. Again, utilize the schedule of rating and make sure that you have the doctor annotate the criteria for the specific rating that you should be rated for into your medical records. Have them complete a DBQ if they can. That's all evidence that you would be submitting. Now you're going to submit all of this stuff, right? So now you found maybe a couple new claims you could file for, you found some increases you could go for, and you found some secondaries. You're going to push all that through. I will also say that if you have tinnitus or GERD that you've never filed for before in the past, and you have those, you need to look back in your mind and say, okay, did I first start experiencing that during my time in service, or could this be as a result of my service, depending on what your situation is? And excuse me, still not feeling great. Tail end though. So what you need to do is make sure that you file for those now, because they are changing. Now, GERD arguably could be changing for the better to take you to an 80%. However, if you don't meet that criteria for the 80%, well, you're going to miss out on this 60% if you meet the criteria for the 60 today. So currently, the criteria is one way for GERD, and they're changing the criteria. They're also changing the rating schedule maximum amount. So if you qualify for a 60% today, no matter what you actually qualify for today, no matter what, file for GERD if you haven't. And then if you need to file for an increase later on GERD when they change it, great. Tinnitus is a huge one that you can't miss, because if you've never filed for it before because it wasn't a high value claim, which I'm so against the idea of only going after certain things, go for everything that you should go for that you can actually get approved. That's kind of my thing. So anyway, if you've never filed for tinnitus and you have it, then file for it, because you can hang secondary conditions off of tinnitus, like migraine headaches or anxiety or insomnia could be potential secondaries for your tinnitus. There's more, but that's kind of the two big ones that I see. So with that, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.